Hey guys, in this video we're taking a look at a really dirty farm truck, but we're going to be talking about the business side of doing details like this and highlighting some super huge problems that end up coming in when you are seeing vehicles like this and potential ways to overcome them. So as you guys are looking at the before here, I just wanted to say real quick, if you guys wanted to check out my free guide on how to start your detailing business for under $500, check out the link below. I will link it up below. All you got to do is join the email list. No, I'm not going to spam you with emails or anything crazy like that. But for those of you wondering what the essential tools and products are to start up a detailing business with, and you don't want to overspend on things that don't work, grab that free guide because it is going to help you figure out how to sift through all the confusing ideas of what to buy in the detailing world. So again, that link is below for those of you interested. Alright guys, so there are two main problems here that I want to talk about when you're dealing with really dirty vehicles. And by the way, this does not just apply to really dirty farm trucks like you're seeing here. Yes, this truck is driven on a farm. Yes, it's beaten up like nobody's business. And yes, it's going to look really good afterwards, by the way. But whether or not you're dealing with a dirty farm truck or you're dealing with a really dirty minivan that a mom drives her 6 kids around in and they, spill their Coke and coffee, and not that kids are drinking coffee in minivans, but you know what I mean. Maybe they're dum-dums or stuck to the carpet and they've been there for years and years and years, and it's just beyond dirty. You end up running into two main problems when you're talking with a customer in this sort of situation over the phone. The first is this: because it's going to take such a long time to get this back to the level of perfection that somebody like myself is going to want to raise the car to, you end up having to assign a price point to this vehicle that the person, more often than not might have a certain aversion to. They might be saying, okay, look, I don't know if that price point is going to work for me. And then you end up having to come to this second problem of, if this price is not going to work for you, or if this price is not going to work for most people because I'm going to have to spend so much time on it, then I'm going to have to, in essence, lower the amount of time I'm going to spend on it, therefore lowering the level of perfection I'm going to be able to raise it to. So the question becomes, how little time can I spend on it to meet your needs with price and yet also to meet your needs with an end result that you want? And this can be a conundrum that detailers find themselves in way more often than we probably want to. This idea of, I want to make the money that I want to make, but I don't want to scare off a customer. So what's the happy medium between the pricing that I give them and then the end result that I'm delivering for that price, without me having to waste a bunch of my time spending time on things that I'm not necessarily being paid for in an effort to make a customer happy that I don't know if I'm ever going to see again. So let's talk about some solutions to this. Well, to contextualize it to this situation just a little bit more with this particular customer, this is kind of the solution we came to. Basically, the consensus was, hey, this is my farm truck. This is not a truck that I'm going to be dying to have in perfect condition. It is going to get this dirty again, and it's going to get this dirty again pretty quickly. So I am not needing this to be raised to what I call the highest level of perfection that is within the realm of possibility. That being said, because no matter what I do to this car, to raise it to any level of dramatic difference, it's going to take a significant amount of time, I still have to make sure that I'm charging accordingly to make sure that this job pays me for the work that I'm going to have to do. So I'm not having to raise it to the highest level of perfection. I understand my customers' expectations are not there, but this is still a seriously dirty car. So I'm still going to have to price at somewhere around 5 to 6 hours. That's what it's going to take to get it to really any level that's going to make the customer even feel like something changed. What you see in the detailing world is, over time, as you see more and more vehicles, what ends up happening is when a car reaches a sort of point of no return like this one is in, unless you spend significant time on it, it really doesn't even seem like anything changed. And so while the customer doesn't totally understand this, a lot of times they'll say things like, listen, I just want you to chemically clean it a little bit, like, wipe everything down. They use terms like that, wipe everything down, vacuum up the dirt a little bit, nothing too major. What they don't understand is, if I just do a little bit, quote unquote, like like what they're saying, this is not going to look any different. Hey, comment below if that makes sense to you. Have you experienced that with a customer before where they say, hey, I just want you to wipe it down real fast, just want you to clean it up real fast, and it's in a sort of condition like this, and you are coming from experience knowing, hey, this doesn't make sense. I'm not going to be able to just quote unquote wipe it down real fast. It's going to look the exact same as it always did if I take that route. So for myself in my business, what I've found to be the best solution to these two problems that end up leading into each other, right? It's going to take a lot of work, so I'm going to have to price really high, but my customer doesn't want to pay that much, so I'm going to have to figure out a price that works and services that match that price and time so that I'm not getting screwed, basically, okay? The best solution to that I have found is very simply this. How do I focus on the major areas of this car and communicate with my customer in a way where they understand I'm focusing on the major areas of this car and I am going to leave out some of my focus in some other areas. So to contextualize this to say a minivan, basically what I found is that the major parts of the interior of any vehicle that pretty much any mom or dad or whoever's driving the minivan is going to be concerned about, and ultimately really any person is going to be concerned about, because this makes up the immediate areas of the vehicle that you see. On the interior of the minivan, that's going to be the leather seats or the upholstery seats and the car carpet. If you've ever detailed a car and you've only detailed the seats and the carpet, you will find that this is something that immediately raises the visual appeal, the curb appeal of the vehicle, even if you touch nothing else. If you spend a lot of time on these areas, the car looks like it has been seriously cleaned, and in some ways, you might even ignore the other areas. Well, in the same way with this particular truck, what I want to do is, these are basically the two major things that I'm trying to do here. Every interior plastic area, I'm trying to strip off that layer of dusty, dirty, muddy kind of film that sits on top of it, because I have enough experience to know that in this particular instance, basically this entire interior, because it's made up of hard rubber, vinyl, and plastics, and leathers, every part of the interior here has basically a dusty, dirty coating on it where it looks almost more brownish than it does gray, and the original color is gray. And if I use my Magic Eraser and the Citrus Safe Touch all-purpose cleaner from Renegade that I'm using in this video, if I use my Magic Eraser to strip that whole that whole film off, all of that plastic will be returned to its original gray appearance, and it will instantly pop when you open the door. This happens a lot of times with convertibles. Convertible cars that are driven on a regular basis, in many ways they have this film all over the interior, hard vinyl rubbers and plastics and leathers, because the outside dirt is getting on the inside, and it's a very adhered, it's kind of a specific type of dirt, and you really do have to end up using something strong like a Magic Eraser to pull that stuff off. In many ways, if you do that, the car instantaneously goes, oh my gosh, this looks so much better. So I'm going to be spending less time in what I call the details, meaning, for example, when I'm doing the steering wheel here, you see I'm using the steamer to get in some of these cracks and crevices, but I am not going to spend too much time getting in these tiny little cracks and blowing out the dust. I'm focused on the general part of the steering wheel, getting that film off. Outside of that, I'm focusing on the floorboards, and specifically the areas of the floorboards that you can see. In other words, underneath the seats, I really did not spend too much time, and I communicated this to my customer. Hey, I'm going to spend more time on the things I and you can see, because the major part of the dirt, the dust, the mud is in those areas, particularly on the driver's side. Yes, there's going to be a lot of buildup underneath the seats. I'll vacuum that. I'll wipe that down at a minimal level, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time on those things that you can't see. In the same way, in between the leather seats, there's going to be a lot of buildup, a lot of things that really would take a ton of time to address. I'm going to focus on the major part of the seat, the back, sides, and front, particularly the front and the front seats that are sat on the most. And I'm not going to so much worry about in between the seats where the buckles sit, all of those details that normally I would be very worried about. Now, while this sounds like a pretty simplistic solution, and truth be told, it is a simple solution, let me explain where the pitfall comes in here. It can be very difficult in the detailing world to explain to your customer where their expectations should be set based on the percentage of detail you are going to do to a job like this. In other words, when you explain to your customer what you're going to do and what you're going to not do, How do you explain to your customer really with high accuracy what a 65% clean is from you, or a 75 or an 85% versus a 45, 55% versus 100%? How do you know that your version of this particular percentage of the car being cleaned matches your customer? And this is where really, if we were putting it in a mathematical equation, here's what I would say. You want to make sure that perceived expectation matches actual expectation. Another way to put this is you want to make sure perceived value matches actual value, because what ends up happening if perceived value is very high and actual value is fairly low, and there is a huge gap in that particular direction, then that's how refunds happen. Whereas if perceived value and actual value are the exact same, customers are satisfied. If perceived value and actual value is way higher than perceived value, then customers are overly satisfied and they're going to call you again. So ideally, in the detailing world, we want to make sure that actual value actually exceeds perceived value. However, I will qualify it with this. It can be very difficult in a situation like this to overly satisfy a customer. A lot of times detailers get really caught up in the I want to over-deliver, over-deliver, over-deliver. And while yes, of course, if you're going to err on any side, erring on the over-delivery side is certainly going to help you in the long run. There is a time where it is totally appropriate to sacrifice this whole mantra of I need to over-deliver, 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 because in a situation like this, again, you've already communicated this to your customer. This is a difficult situation to over-deliver in because you are delivering very specific results. This is a very, very dirty car. If you get too caught up in the over-delivery, you are going to waste your time in a way that is going to be frustrating in the long run. So yes, it is a tightrope walk. It is a balancing act between over-delivering and making sure that you are remaining profitable and that you can actually get things done in a manner that makes sense time-wise, as well as makes sense for your own attitude and frustrations. Now, while this sounds super, super simple, and this is going to be advice that's probably just common sense, but it still needs to be said, using the right products and tools in a situation like this has so much to do with the results you're going to be able to get and the amount of time it's going to take you to get them. So let me explain. The reason why I'm using the Renegade Safe Touch Citrus All-Purpose Cleaner, I diluted it about 5-to-1 in the spray bottle. You guys saw me pour it in the beginning of this video, and I spilled it everywhere. I should have just used a funnel, but I was being impatient. And sometimes I just get impatient and I want to fill up bottles really quickly and end up spilling product everywhere. So don't do that. But the reason why I'm using this product is because, number one, this product is extremely, extremely effective at a very low dilution. Actually, I guess I would say a very high dilution. So it is fairly diluted at 5-to-1 and maybe even a little more diluted than that, maybe more like 4-to-1. And it's going to get incredible, incredible results on the interior. Secondly, this particular interior is made up of material that's very, very difficult to damage. So for example, lots of vinyl, lots of rubber, lots of hard plastics, not a lot of really fragile, genuine leather, anything like that. Once again, this is designed to be a farm truck. It's a very tough interior, so I can use a really strong chemical. Secondly, this chemical is going to be super versatile. You can use it on the inside, you can use it on the outside, you can use it on virtually every single material other than glass I use it on. It also foams up really, really nicely, and in a situation like this, I like a lot of foam because it's just going to have a great cleaning ability. Now, there's two particular tools that you've been seeing me use throughout this entire detail that really speed me up. Number one, absolutely non-negotiable, magic erasers. Number two, equally as non-negotiable, my drill brushes. Now, number three, I would throw in my steamer, but I would say my steamer is just so necessary for every detail that I've almost considered it like a non-topic or a non-issue I don't even talk about anymore. Yes, you absolutely need a steamer if you're going to be detailing at this dirty of a level. Yes, you have to have magic erasers. Yes, you have to have a really strong chemical. And more than that, yes, you have to have drill brushes that work. Now, by the way, this particular drill brush set that I've been using, you've got the 4-inch diameter ones, you've got the smaller ones, you've got the round ones. These are all a part of the new Wilson Auto Detailing drill brush set that are going to be available on Amazon soon. They're not available right this second, but the old Wilson Auto Detailing drill brushes, the 3-pack that I'm using right here in this part of the video, the soft, medium, and hard stiffness drill brushes, those are available. And of course, guys, by the way, all of the tools and the products that I use in a detail like this in this video, they're all going to be hooked up in the YouTube description box below, so you you can see links to Amazon, and all of those are affiliate links. So yes, I do get a little bit of a commission for any of those purchases that you may make through those links, full disclosure. But of course, yeah, that would be super awesome if you use those links if you want to buy any of these things. Now, all of that being said, the reason why I point out those particular tools is because they're very, very simple, and yet they make a maximum degree of difference. And I like tools and products that are very simple, very economical, very easy to use, very straightforward, and yet they bring a huge result. That's kind of my flipping of the 80-20 rule. Rather than spending 20%, or rather than spending 80% of my effort and getting 20% results, I want to spend 20% effort and get 80% results. And those particular three tools, particularly the Safe Touch Citrus All-Purpose Cleaner, the drill brushes, the magic erasers, those make a huge difference in a detail like this specifically, and they would in any detail, truthfully, that's at this level. And they're just so simple and straightforward to buy that it really just doesn't make sense to not have them. I'm not sponsored by magic erasers or drill brushes. I'm just telling you guys that, this is just something that makes sense in the detailing world. And if you haven't used them, it really just makes sense to get them. And the magic erasers, by the way, that I hook up below are not Mr. Clean magic erasers. They are bulk magic erasers that you can buy, in bulk on Amazon. And they're way more durable, by the way, than the Mr. Clean magic erasers. I like them a whole lot better than the Mr. Clean ones, and you're going to get way more for your money. So that being said, guys, let me talk about one more big business topic here that you're going to run into in a situation like this, that if you don't have this under control, things like this can be extremely frustrating. When you finish detailing an interior of a truck that's at this level of dirtiness, there will always, inevitably, for all of time, without exception, always be a level of damage underneath all of the dirt that you cannot see unless you remove the dirt, and that, yes, the customer and you will be more aware of after you get the detail done. This is something that absolutely must be said. It must be talked about with the customer. It must be talked about. People ask all the time, do I need to have my customers sign sort of like not waivers, but sort of checklists or kind of fine print that says, hey, I am not liable for any damage that existed previously, yada, 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 yada. How do I, make a checklist or take pictures to show that there's damage before I ever get started? The reason why I'm not a super big fan of things like that is because there is an endless amount of damage you could document on the interior and the exterior of a car before you get done. And yes, of course, you could just focus on the major things, but I say in almost 99.99999% of cases, if you just communicate this well on the front end, it really is not going to take any serious level of, liability forms that need to be filled out or checklists or anything like that. For example, obvious things that are going to exist here. Scuff marks on the plastics, particularly the doors, maybe even on the carpet, maybe the little running boards where your feet drag in and out. Going to be tons of scuffs, going to be scuffs that cannot be taken care of with a magic eraser, all of that sort of stuff. There might be leather on the leather seats where the dirt has been sitting there for so long and your butt gets in and out of the seat. Maybe some of that leather is worn down. Maybe some of that leather is cracked to a level where if it gets wet, it will only get worse, so I can't even clean that particular area of the leather because I would only be making it worse. Maybe another area is the white lettering on the radio. The radio is so dirty that I start cleaning it at a high level and the white lettering starts to fade or get wiped off, so I have to actually decide not to clean it any further because even though it really desperately needs it, if I go any further, it is going to continue to accrue damage. And so I decide to stop there. These are things that you can summarize in a pretty simplistic way when you're talking about your detail before you get involved with it with your customer that are necessary. The same thing is true of the outside. I actually have a list of key problem areas that I walk through with every customer because I want them to understand the level of damage that they can expect, because there is a difference between detailing and damage. And the truth is, in a situation like this, it is all the more necessary. One of the big things I wanted to discuss with my customer in this particular situation was the fact that I'm not going to do the door jams. So the door jams are not included in this detail. The reason why the door jams are not included is because my customer is not going to be paying for that amount of service. I'm focusing on the things that he wants me to focus on. So while this isn't a damage issue, this is one of those, hey, you're going to notice a lot more dirt on the door jams when I get finished with this detail because the inside is going to look really clean, and the contrast between the dirt on the door jams and the lack of dirt everywhere else is going to be more obvious than it was before. When you talk to customers this way, they actually deeply appreciate it. I can tell you from experience, this is something customers really, really want you to explain to them, because just like when my plumber comes to my house, or my dentist fixes something in my teeth, or my whatever specialist fixes or provides whatever service that I am not a specialist in, when they explain to me what they're doing and it makes logical sense to me, I can rest a lot easier at night, because it makes common sense, it makes logical sense, and while I don't understand the trade completely, they're breaking it down in a way where I understand why I'm paying for what I'm paying, and I understand what I'm getting when I do make the payment. So when you're dealing with people who are not experts in the detailing world, which by the way is 100% of your customers, it is absolutely necessary to talk about these sort of things. Now, this also brings up the question, is there ever a time where you are justified to make a little bit of damage in an effort to clean something at a little higher level? So a good example in a situation like this might be, is it ever appropriate to more or less say use the magic eraser on the leather seats here and maybe quote unquote sand down or sort of flatten out or plane out the textured pieces of a particular part of the leather a little bit in order to get that leather a little bit more clean? This is one of those subjective things in the detailing world that every single detailer has to take on a case-by-case basis. But yes, there have absolutely been times in my detailing world where I have basically accrued a tiny bit of damage in one particular area in order to clean it at a higher level. So something, again, that is a great example of this is that leather seat scenario. In particular situations, potentially like a situation like this, there's so much dirt in a certain area that you begin using the magic eraser and you say, man, if I go 2% more, it's going to look so much better, but I may sand down at a tiny level, not a noticeable level, not a level that's going to hurt anything long term, but yes, at a tiny level, I might have to make this kind of executive decision to make this almost put a little bit of damage into this seat. And so hopefully you guys can hear what I'm saying and not hear what I'm not saying. Of course, you don't damage something on purpose. Of course, this isn't something you are kind of going after in every single detail. But yes, when something is at a level like this, it only makes sense that in certain areas you might have to take extreme measures. Desperate times sometimes call for desperate measures. Now, I want to show you guys a little bit of a technique that I'm using here that I think can be really helpful for not only situations like this. Of course, there's no carpet here, but even when I'm doing a minivan or something that's really dirty and you've got serious carpet disgustingness. When you have something like that, particularly the impossible carpet, it can be really difficult to get things out from under those fibers. When you use a high-powered steamer, high-pressure, high PSI steamer, and your vacuum at the same exact time, it kind of works when you're the same way that it would work like if you're sitting in a dentist chair and they're kind of rinsing your mouth at the same time using that suction tool to keep everything dry so they can continue to see everything. That's kind of the way what you're doing here. You're almost rinsing something out and sucking it up at the same time so everything stays really clear. You can still see everything, but it makes it really easy to get stuff, kind of rinse stuff out. Really great way to rinse stuff out there, and I use this in a lot of different areas in this particular detail. You saw I used it in the pockets of the doors, even with my chemical. So in a situation like this, I will even use my vacuum to actually suck up the suds like you see here. Now, also this little strategy or technique that I'm using here, you saw I already cleaned this area with the drill brushes, and now I'm going in with a sort of final clean or final wipe down with my magic eraser, because while the drill brushes are going to use those bristles to get in between all those little textured pieces and those grooves in the mats here and in the floorboards here, the magic eraser is going to pull off any scuffs and kind of get all of the trace dirt that's left behind. That's really difficult to get after one pass. This is your classic scenario of something that you're going to have to do repeated applications. It's just not going to be fixed in one fell swoop. So guys, with that being said, the last thing that I will say here is that yes, most of the time I do avoid doing details like this, because the truth is it is very difficult to set customers' expectation in a situation like this. I've been doing this for years. I've been talking to customers for years. I've been detailing for years, seeing every different situation imaginable, and it just becomes very difficult to communicate with a customer and explain to them what something is going to come out like when you are not raising it to 100% perfection, whatever is reasonably perfect in a situation like this. when you've passed a point of no return, like I would call this past the point of no return, unless you're dealing with a unique person, unless you're dealing with somebody who's hyper reasonable, which a lot of times in the detailing world, you might not be dealing with somebody if their car is in this condition. It just sometimes can be something where you're setting yourself up for failure. And so this is why I don't talk about doing details like this all the time. While yes, details like this that are super dirty, super disgusting, and really fun to watch, yes, they get a ton of views on YouTube, but no, they do not create a hyper profitable auto detailing business. What I teach detailers how to do is actually the exact opposite of this. I teach detailers how to detail cars that are clean already. I teach people how to develop a maintenance client list of regular vehicles that you see on a regular basis that are owned by people who, generally speaking, have a more higher disposable income. And these are people that become maintenance clients, people that you service their vehicles on a regular basis. Therefore, the car is not dirty, super easy to clean, very little product, very little energy, very little output, and yet maximum input. It's how we maximize profitability in the auto detailing business. And that is actually what my entire online course is going to be about. That's going to be released here very, very, very soon. It's not going to be opened up, indefinitely. It'll be opened up for a very, very small amount of time, for a very small amount of people to get in, so that we can take these guys from basically no detailing business to successful detailing business. We want to create a test group of a very small, focused in group of people. Now, guys, like I said at the beginning of this video, if you want to get that free guide on how to start your detailing business for under $500 so you don't get caught up wasting your money on products and tools that don't work, go below, click that link to get the free guide. Yes, you'll join the email list, and then outside of that, that will be sent right to your email, and you'll see the exact tools and products that you need to buy for less than $500 to start up your business, so you have everything you need, at least in a fundamental sense. Outside of that, all of the tools and products that I used in this video, including the drill brushes, magic erasers, and the chemical that I highlighted, are going to be linked up below for those of you interested in getting your hands on that. And of course, if you guys are new to the Wilson Auto Detailing community and you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, then subscribe to the YouTube channel and tap the bell icon so that you get notified when I post future videos, so that you don't ever miss business content in the detailing world just like this, and sometimes super fun to watch details that are really dirty like this. Even though this is not what I built my business off of, it can be super fun to watch. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of this detail. And as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, keep working hard, and I'll see you guys in the next video.